primary school teachers and that. Going back maybe 20, 30 years ago, all the clubs done was provide jerseys at under 12, under 14. But we never actually sat and thought, how did these players all of a sudden become good players? Now the onus is back on the club. And taking a player from the time he comes in the gate, 5 or 6, to the stage when he's going to play matches, whether it's under 12 in mini leagues or moving on to the World Championship, that's huge. The workload in that area, I firmly believe, is huge. And it's not a coincidence that the clubs that are successful operate well at this area. The clubs that are winning championships, if that's what we want to measure, and it's another thing maybe I should have said at the start, your coaching it's very hard to measure coaching. Very hard. Only one team wins the championship. So it's very hard one to measure. But in the end of the day, like, the clubs that are successful at this area will definitely reap the rewards. What's crucial to it? As I said already, I think it's the most important section in the club. If you don't get this right, it's a situation of the cart before the horse. It's very easy to turn around to one of your adult players and hand them a group of 12-year-olds and say, will you look after them for the coming championship or for the coming league under 14? And they're all reasonably well able to play the game. But you take a child who comes in the gate of the club for the first time, never held a hurley, never kicked the ball, has no coordination skills. You have to take them from that to the latter stage. From my experience, and now I'm conscious that clubs vary in size, and my background would be, to a certain extent, working in urban clubs where numbers would be big, but you will not operate at that area unless you have a separate group looking after it. If it's left to one guy to do it all, he'll be under serious pressure. The amount of work that's involved in that area, recruiting players, keeping your link with the schools, identifying more coaches, getting blitzes, participating in blitzes, challenge games, etc. I firmly believe that you nearly need a subcommittee of the juvenile committee in the club looking after that area. Registering the children is crucial. When you come in the gate, making sure that you have all the necessary details for the future. Having a coaching structure and plan for this section. As I said, it's very important that when children move from one group onto the next, they're not being told the opposite, or that it's progressive. So it's crucial that there's a plan of action, that it's firmly laid out where we're going. It's very hard in particular to tie. I believe it's very hard to say. I often get asked questions from clubs that, what should a 6-year-old be doing? What should an 8-year-old be doing? What should a 10-year-old be doing? Very hard to say exactly, because obviously children mature differently. Some clubs are stronger at certain posts than the other. But what there is there's a progression of skills, without a doubt, that you must teach. And I suppose the successful clubs or the stronger clubs will move quicker up that progression. I've done a bit of work for a while with St. Joseph's Stewart Airfield there, and I think James is here after. And James and Shawnee McMahon sent me down a proposed skills list for their under 6s, 8s and 10s, and just asked me for some comment on it. And the first thing I just sent back to him was very good. We're talking about 2 former All-Stars, 2 of the top hurlers in the game. I just thought it was pitched a little low for a club that would maybe have ambitions in hurling, and I sent them back that and just said, thanks. So, like, it's very hard, as I said, to say what you should be doing at which particular age, but there is a progression, and I think if you want to be successful in a particular coach, you need to move up that a little faster. Recruiting players is crucial. I mentioned it earlier. In the world we live in today, we have to go out and fight for them, we have to get them in, and we have to retain them. Recruiting coaches and helpers. Coaches that look after this section in my book, and in the Munster Council book, are the most important coaches in the club. We're currently undertaking, we're calling it a child development programme, but we're actually going to every club in the province to do some work on this particular area. Because again, as I said earlier, I think it's the key to it. Coaches and helpers, much maligned are parents. You hear people saying, oh, look, keep parents away from their children. Fair enough, but in the end of the day, ultimately, it's probably the place where we most recruit them from. Former players. I firmly believe that we should use more of the 16 to 18-year-old age bracket for this particular, for a number of reasons. My own club, we run a foundation award coach at Easter for our under-16 squad every year. We might get 3 or 4 guys involved with teams then. But apart from the fact that children respond better to younger people, we're also getting your younger players to actually think about what's involved from the other side of the fence. Think about the hassle maybe they give their coach when they see it from the other side. But I firmly believe that in terms of assistance, you can't go far wrong with getting some of our 16 to 18-year-olds to help out. Training and manage the coaches. How often do we, with some parent come into the gate of the field and next minute he's landed with a team and he's left to his own devices? I think it's crucially important if we do that. And promotion and publicity at this area is very important, because obviously children like to see their name. You need to get the name of the club out there as well. Adequate resources and equipment. And many times we've heard of clubs complaining that we haven't got enough equipment, yet the same club will spend a fortune on getting someone in to train their junior football, junior hurling team. Shortage of football, shortage of slippers. You go looking for bean bags, or you go looking for slalom poles. Oh no, we haven't got the money. If the club wants to be successful, it has to invest in this area. And as I said, remember, first impressions last. I'm going to go fairly quick through this, lads, because as I said, I'm conscious that people are moving for lunch now. The importance of the club school link. Conscious that in some urban areas it might be hard to have a club school link because you could have a few clubs feeding out of one school. But what's important for us as an association is that we have a link in the schools. That we make sure the games continue to thrive in the schools, and we make sure that teachers who are interested and who want to work have some backup. Teachers will appreciate help and assistance. And for our point of view, it's still the best means of player recruitment, because every child attends a school if we want to get at them. And with the competition out there from other codes and that now, it is crucial that we keep the club school link and develop it. Rules and code of behaviour. It's very important to have a set of rules within your club from a coaching perspective, whether it is in terms of attendance at training, punctuality, attire, obviously the usual bullying, behaviour, etc. But it's important that you decide on your club rules and that everyone is aware of it, and if there's a problem, that you deal with it. You don't just brush it under the carpet. In terms of a coaching structure within the club, there must be clear roles and responsibilities. It must be progressive. Remember, everyone does not have to coach. There's a role for everyone in this. There's a role for assistants, there's a role for people, taking names, there's a role for a secretary, etc. We can't afford to turn anyone away. But there is a need within a club for a coaching structure. Most of the juvenile committee meetings or the adult committee meetings are taken up with day-to-day affairs. And particularly I find in today's world finance. Finance is a huge one. But if there can be a coaching structure within a club, I think what it will do is it will provide the club with an opportunity to focus on what they should be doing. If all the coaches only met once a quarter and there was a programme laid out or a bit of training provided, it will be huge. And with this in mind, we would be suggesting that every club should have a coaching officer to oversee all of these. I've attended meetings related to coaching, and they're fantastic. There's pure working meetings. You're dealing with on-the-ground stuff that's happening, dealing with small problems, dealing with how we're going to progress the game, dealing with how we're going to progress our activities. And obviously within the association, as you all know, we now have a coaching structure which suits everyone's needs, because you can progress now after the foundation award. You can progress, if you want to remain at the child level, you can progress up to level 3 when it's eventually out of award 3, and likewise with youth and adult. So it's important that the club provides their coaches with an opportunity to improve themselves and attend these when possible, and I would encourage everyone to do so. A season plan. Very important part of your coaching programme is to have a season plan. Know what you're doing for the year. Very important. In today's world, the parents demand a little bit more. The parents are running there, dropping to. Coaches demand a little bit more. To know what's going to happen. Right? I often hear clubs complain about the shortage of games. You know, Board and Oaks invariably and even adults find it hard, maybe particularly for urban clubs, to cater for their needs. I would say the onus is on the club to get out and fill the vacuum. Sit down and look at your programme for the year. Sit down and have you enough games. You have to have a proper games programme. They don't all have to be championship games. And if there's a gap, why not run a tournament? Why not run an internal league if you have the numbers? Why not travel away? Try keep the season reasonably long. The types of games obviously that can be played vary from goal games to fun games. As I said, I was delighted to hear Tony mention the importance of games in the training session. When I see guys sometimes going out, they spending 15 minutes putting down the cones and coming up with these big intricate drills that bear very little resemblance of what's going to happen in a match. I shudder. You know, okay, we do need to do our basic drills at times. We need a mixture. But in the end of the day, the nearer we can get to a game situation, the better. And apart from that, it improves our ability to play in a game. Players want it, it's what they want. Care of players within your club in terms of a coaching programme. You have to have first aid procedures in place down south of Gardavet and PSNI or whatever. An inclusion policy in place, the child welfare course completed, and foundation award coaching course. As I mentioned earlier when I sat down to put this together, I said there's nearly a workshop on each area. You know, there's a huge amount. Like in the end of the day, coaching and games is the integral part of any club. For me, everything else is the fluff. It's all about playing the games, it's all about coaching, it's all about out in the field. We can't have one without the other, but this is what it's all about. In terms of child management, whole area safety, having a set of rules, having a policy on bullying, remembering the children are not smaller adults, having information on allergies and illnesses, appropriate behaviour by the coach, not end up on your own with a child, using the child's first name and being consistent and fair. And finally, just to wind up, I do think, as I said, coaching is central to everything, but we cannot survive without a proper club backing. And I think in the end of the day, that the successful clubs on the field are also the successful ones off it. It isn't a coincidence. Just a few points on the club. Our club is at the coalface in the promotion and development of our games. It provides enjoyment, involvement and personal development for all our members and players. It develops friendships, teamwork and equality for all. Provides our community with a positive identity and sense of pride. Do you agree? And just two quick ones on what would a parent expect from your club? Safe place to be for their children. Provides meaningful, enjoyable activity. Well structured and managed. Club is well respected in the community. Do you think we're providing all of those within our club? If we're not, I think we should sit down and look at it. What does a mentor expect from the club? Yourselves, or maybe some new mentor who's roped in. Expect support from the club committee and members. Certainly not hindrance. Expects good communication. Likes to know what's happening, when things are on, if there's a change or if there's... Wants the proper equipment to do the job, or the equipment to do the job properly. And if assistance is required, that it's there for them. And that there's a code of discipline within the club to ensure fair play. Successful clubs have proper structures, they have a positive, open and welcoming attitude by all, they have good leadership, they have proper delegation, good teamwork and finance. Well, I know it's not relevant to the coaching end of it, it's very much so in the sense that if all of this is provided, it makes our job on the field an awful lot easier. I hope that I've just touched, as I said, on all of the areas there, and if there's any questions and answers, I'll gladly take them. I'm going to get off like the rest of the lads.
Ladies and gentlemen,